you. Very good morning to all councillors and members of the public and those also viewing online via the live stream on YouTube. If you could all keep your microphones muted, members, and telephones and laptops to silent, that would be very much appreciated. So we go on to item 1 of the executive meeting, which is apologies for absences.
Thank you very much, Chair. Received apologies from councillors Matthew Binley, David Brackenbury and Helen Howell, and then from officers Susan Hamilton and David Watts.
Thank you very much. Any other apologies that have not been noted? No, jolly good. Thank you very much. So we go on to item 2, minutes of the meeting held on July 2nd, 2023. The minutes are on the agenda pack, page 5 to 18. Are there any comments in respect to their accuracy? No. Okay. Can I have a mover and a seconder to approve the signing of the minutes, please? Thank you very much. Councillor Harrison, Councillor Edwards. Okay. They've been signed. So we move on to item 3, members' declarations of interest. Members, are there any declarations of interest? Okay, good. So on to item 4, notifications to address the meeting. We have quite a few, so I'm not going to go through them all, but I will invite you up as and when you're needed to speak. So item 5, performance indication reports. So I'd like to invite Councillor Bunday to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just bear with me, my IT is just trying to catch up with me. Thank you, Chair. This is the first report for 23-24, which includes our quarterly KPIs. It includes most of the KPIs that are monitored by this executive. About half of this year's KPIs are reported on a quarterly basis, 28% are reported monthly, and 19% are recorded and reported less frequently. In period 3 of those KPIs with targets, 36 indicators are either on or exceeding target, 3 indicators are within tolerance of target, and 16 are performing below target. 2 indicators are missing data. For those KPIs where the polarity and the direction of travel is shown, performance has improved for 43 of the indicators and have deteriorated in 24. I'm sure the colleagues around this table want to comment on KPIs in their own area, but from the point of view of KPIs within my responsibility, the percentage of invoices paid within 30 days has again increased to 96.6%. The number of local contractors and suppliers is still on the increase. Council tax and business rate collections remain higher than forecast and indeed higher than last year. The number of data breaches has continued to fall. Our customer services department has helped 53,403 people. 34,000 of those are on telephone, 3,100 face-to-face, 2,500 using the e-form system, and 13,800 on emails. Following the agreed changes to performance reporting arrangements at the March Executive Committee, the appendix containing human resources and workforce data KPIs is included at the end of each quarter, and so is included in this report. Recent data cleansing of the vacancy data has now been completed, and the agency spend KPI has been updated for the financial year to include the total agency spend rather than just the spend of Opus. And with that, Chair, I'm happy to recommend or propose the recommendation of paragraph 3.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bunday. Members, have you got any comments in relation to the KPI data? Councillor Pentland.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to note the number more KPIs that are coming online in relation to sustainability and the environment, which is pleasing to see. It's good to be able to note the areas that we're doing well in terms of that and reducing emissions, looking after the environment. but it also shows us where we can keep improving, which is really important in terms of keeping us honest on our journey to carbon neutrality. I'm sure there'll be more KPIs come forward as we move forward, but it's pleasing to see them.
Thank you, Councillor Pentland. Okay, so there's no other comments in relation to this report. Needs a mover, which has been moved by Councillor Bunday. Can I have someone to second the report, please? Councillor Pentland, thank you very much. So the recommendations are set out on page 20 of the agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please?
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we move on to item 6, Education Case Management System Procurement and Implementation Business Case. I'd like to invite Councillor Lynn Buckingham to address the meeting.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Wanted to speak on this item because a report came to the executive at the end of last year outlining the business case for care management system, children's care management systems. And I'm surprised that this report didn't bring out possible similarities between what is happening in the education case management system as well as in the children's service. And I know too that you know, there are some parts of the care case management system that use the current parts of the education case management. So I wondered whether or not there'd actually been sort of collaboration between what similarities and what could be sort of procured together, because although there are slight differences in time frames when the contracts will come in, I'm sure that there's a better way of doing things in looking for I've got the words here somewhere. Better procurement, buying power, giving us better value and savings, and we do need to be looking for savings. So just wondered if anything had been happening on that area. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councillor Buckingham, and I'm sure Councillor Edwards will answer your questions as he begins to introduce the report now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And it's a very good question, Councillor Buckingham, and absolutely they have been looked at together, but there is no case system that will do everything all together. And the one that we talked about, I think it was the end of last year, is the one that is going through the trust, as opposed to this one going through the Educational Authority. So they are run by two different sections, shall we call them, of the organisation, but there is not currently a recording system out there that will record everything, so we have to separate it. But we did look at everything to see if there was an option to be able to do that. So this report is to advise of the options to provide a new education case management system. The current system has been in place for a number of years and it expires on the 31st of March next year. The proposed contract is up to 7 years, and will cost 1.362 million as a one-off cost and 1.82 million over the 7 years. This will be met through the transformation reserves. It is essential to deliver an effective and efficient education service, and this recording system will provide this. It will also give the opportunity in the future for parents, carers and students to follow the progress of items such as EHCPs. By providing this system, it is anticipated that there will be a reduction in corporate complaints, reduced telephone calls to customer services, and improved financial control on all educational expenses, as it will be integrated onto one system. There is an option to continue with the current system, but once the current contract finishes, we will lose the database as it is hosted by the supplier, and the risk would be that we lose the data and have an unsustainable service. If approved today, the next steps are under section 6.1, where it will be taken because of the cost to full council. I do recommend this report.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any comments from members? Okay, no. So, right, so Councillor Edwards, I assume you move that report, and can I look for someone to second the report, please? Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Are you seconding the report, were you? Thank you. So the recommendations are on page 44 and 45 of the agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we move on to item 7, the reprocurement of an NHS health checks programme for North Northamptonshire Council. I'd like to invite Councillor Dorothy Maxwell to come and address the meeting for no more than 3 minutes. Okay, so Councillor Maxwell doesn't want to talk on this. So I'd like to invite Councillor Anne Lee up next, please.
Thank you. An interesting paper, Chair, and I support the recommendations in this paper. The disaggregation from West Northants Council is a positive move. I'm just seeking some clarification. The proposal is for option 2 for a mixed model of health checks being offered by GP practices and by community providers. And we're being told that at the moment that it says that in 4.3 there is a reference to 3 existing community providers. I just wonder which ones are they? Can we know as councillors? The last time that I saw figures on percentages of the in-year eligible health checks offered was the executive report in February 2023, and then 8.4% of the eligible population was offered a health check, and 5% of these took up the health check. So where are these future figures provided? Can they please be sent to the Health Scrutiny Committee, even if it's just sent to the members of the Health Scrutiny Committee without coming on the agenda? It's just where can councillors find out the figures in future? And can we analyse the figures to see which community providers have had a better success rate of getting people to take up health checks? I know that it says in the paper that a review is due to take place, so I'm sure that this will happen. Under the disadvantage of option 2, we see community providers require closer monitoring and public health support, as health and well-being interventions are not their main line of work. Can we please make sure that whoever we appoint will get that support? Because I've spoken at this executive before about the need for more health checks, and that we try and need to boost the numbers. So, yes, can councillors be informed once you've appointed these community providers, and can we continue to receive the figures? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. I'd like to invite Councillor Harrison to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Councillor Lee, for firstly your supportive comments and for your questions, which I'll try to answer before I quickly go to the report itself. Yes, we are recommending to continue with the mixed model, and we do have 3 community providers at the moment, and you quite rightly asked me who they are, and right now I can't conjure them to mind. I think it's football club in Northamptonshire who do a lot of community work with the community, and I can't remember who the other 2 are, but I will get that information to you. As you know from the report that I'm about to deliver, we're going to go to a dynamic purchasing system, so we'll be able to bring other community providers on throughout the life course of this contract. And absolutely, our public health teams work incredibly hard with those providers to ensure the quality of the offering and to hold their hands. As you'll also see in the report that there's a 3-month lead-in period where we'll be working with those community providers to get them ready to be able to deliver this support. And in terms of looking at our providers as a, sorry, can you hear me? In terms of looking at our providers as a whole and who's performing well and who's not, that is done on a continuous basis. Some of our primary care providers are really very good. Some of them are not so good, so we work very closely with them as well to make sure that we are identifying any reasons for drop-off or the quality of the invites they're sending out, the quality of the follow-up invites that are sent out, and so on. So there's quite a lot of intense work done with those providers to ensure that they are delivering. And I think that was, oh, and then the KPIs that we've been looking at, and those going to health scrutiny, absolutely, I can't see any reason why we can't provide those figures. And they will be reported to the executive at the correct periods, because it was being reported monthly, and I think we agreed to go to 6 monthly. I hope that's answered most of your questions. If there's anything, take it up with me. I'll get back to you. Executive, the paper sets out the options for the re-procurement of the NHS Health Checks programme. Local authorities have a responsibility under the Health and Social Care Act 2012 to provide the NHS Health Check assessment to eligible individuals in the local authorities area, and you'll see in the paper the eligibility criteria listed at 4.5. The NHS Health Check is a cardiovascular disease prevention programme delivered across England. It aims to improve the health and well-being of adults aged 40 to 74 through earlier awareness, assessment and management of the major risk factors and conditions driving premature death, disability and health inequalities. In doing so, it will help to prevent heart disease and escalation of health needs such as stroke, diabetes and kidney disease. Identification and treatment earlier in life will help to prevent onset of disease and help people to live well for longer. The programme also raises awareness of dementia, both across the population and within high-risk and vulnerable groups. North Northamptonshire Council currently commissions NHS health checks for residents of North and West Northamptonshire. The arrangement ends on the 31st of March 2024 with no further options to extend. A review of current provision has been conducted and available options have been considered. The options appraisal has been carried out, and the details of that can be seen at 4.5, and Councillor Lee alluded to that earlier. It's proposed that we go to option 2 to procure a service for North Northamptonshire only in line with agreed disaggregation principles, that we continue with a mixed model of primary care and community provision to maximise coverage, and the proposed duration of the new contract is a maximum of 3 years, an initial term of 1 year with options to extend in increments of 12 months up to 3 years. This will enable the contracts to align with a national digital offer for NHS health checks that's being led by the Office for Health Improvement and Disparities, OHID. A precise date for the NHS health checks digital offer to go live has yet to be published, with the evaluation still in its early stages, but it's expected that local authorities can begin offering digital health checks in 2025. The Public Health team are currently carrying out a full service review of the NHS Health Check programme, and the outcomes of the review will inform changes to the new service specification to bring about service improvement, reduce variation in uptake, address health inequalities and address wider quality issues. The annual contract value will be £350,000 paid from NNC's public health grant. A dynamic purchasing system will be used to enable new providers to contract with the council following a robust procurement process. Payments based on activity and the payment structure is set out at 7.1.4. The timetable for the procurement process is set out at 6.1. And I think that pretty much covers the specifics. And I'm pleased to propose the recommendations as set out at 3.1.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Harrison. It's an important piece of paper, this, and an important report. You know, the prevention of cardiovascular disease amongst our communities is something that we all need to hold very dear to our heart, no pun intended. But and also the fact that we can get this as a north-driven piece of work. It's brilliant, so wholly support this myself. Members, have you got any comments to make in relation to it? Councillor Pendon.
Thank you, Chair. And a simple comment along the same lines as what you've said is that this is important policy or paper coming forward. Those health checks are really vital, particularly around the prevention and ensuring that local residents can lead long and happy lives.
Thank you, Councillor Pendon. Okay, any comments? No. So the report has been proposed by Councillor Harrison. Can I look for someone to second that, please? Councillor Rowley, thank you very much. So the recommendations are on your agenda packs at page 57. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we now move on to agenda item 8, Northamptonshire Send and Inclusion Strategy for 23-26 and Co-Production Charter. So I'd like to invite Councillor Maxwell to speak. You have a maximum of 3 minutes, Councillor Maxwell.
Good morning. Appendix A reports prints that every SEND strategy is correct. How many children have been assessed in 23? Are there still children still needing assessing? Have we cleared the backlog? 2, do we have enough places for all SEND children in special schools for 23-24? 3, how many speech and language specialists do we employ to help meet children's needs? 4, how many education psychologists do we employ for children, including secondary education? 5, what specialist training do we deliver to staff? Are they recognised qualifications? 6, do we have enough money for 23-24? This has not been spelt out. Whilst these questions may not seem relevant, in Appendix A, there is no facts or figures of what is happening to help children. Lastly, there are still children who need assessing from 22-23. When are they going to catch up on these children? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell. I'd like to invite Councillor Leanne Buckingham to address the meeting.
Just before I speak, obviously we sat in a different place. It's actually really quite hard to hear the other side of the room. I know it feels very different when you've got a microphone. Can we make sure, I know you did it earlier, point the microphone towards you, because we are struggling over there. Not me per se, but some are.
Okay.
So support this report full-heartedly. I think we need to consider how far it goes. In a world that strives for progress and equality, we need to recognise the imperative to build a community of support around children and their families. The need for comprehensive send and inclusion strategy has never been greater. It goes beyond the walls of the classroom, health, and this council's responsibility. It's extended to everyone within our society. I think some education and awareness of the needs of SEND people would be of paramount importance. I don't think if you are somebody outside of the need of special educational needs, I don't think there's enough awareness outside. I think there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of harsh treatment, and that creates more isolation. It would be remiss of this council to fail to see the correlation of support for open access support to early years and the increase in demand for special educational needs support. Hopefully, the family hubs coming online and the way that's being created will address those issues, but we need to make sure we're constantly reviewing that relationship. As we address the removal of open access spaces in early years, we are going to be taking a step forward. But I just hope that we keep it always in mind that the two probably are very closely connected. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckingham. So I'd now like to invite Councillor Edwards to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. And to answer Councillor Maxwell, there was quite a lot of statistical figures that you wanted there. I will send them out to you. So they're obviously not included within this plan because it is a strategy that is covering 4 years. So what those figures today won't be in 3 years' time. So that's why they're not included within that strategy. And the action plans as well are online, but I can also send them to you as well in what we are doing moving forward with children that haven't been assessed yet, although we have made great strides in increasing the number of children that have had EHCPs. And Councillor Buckingham, thank you very much for your support on this, and I think you are absolutely right. There is a lot of judgment out there for children and families with SEND, and that's why it should be everybody's business. It's not just the council, it's not just the parents, it's not just the children, it's absolutely everybody. And so we have got educational awareness work that is happening at the moment, and we will take that out to members and the broader arena as well to make people more aware of that. So thank you very much for your support. So this report includes the North Northants Special Educational Needs and Inclusion Strategy. It provides the framework for how the Council and the local partnership will deliver its statutory duties in relation to health and care for children with special educational and/or disabled needs. It also includes the co-production charter. This is our commitment for how the local partners will work together in line with our statutory requirements. To help develop the strategy and charter, a working group was introduced in February 2022 to consider best practice and their vision for this. We also worked with the Northamptonshire Parent Caring Forum to define co-production. The proposed principles are: co-production is at the heart of strategic and operational practices, making SEND everybody's business, making good practice common practice, identifying and meeting the right needs at the right time. And I think that goes back to your point about early help and early intervention. Absolutely right, and I'm glad and thank you for recognising the Family Hub programme that will go some way into supporting that. SEND workshops were set up and invited families to come along and share their experiences. From this, key priorities were identified, with many families saying the same issues. We need to improve communication to all partners and significantly improve communication with parents and carers. We need to change the culture in North Northamptonshire regarding SEND and inclusion and create a culture of collectively championing and delivering improved outcomes for children and young people with SEND and their families that gives them confidence in the local system. We have some great practice in some settings and schools and some officers in local services, but we need to reduce the local variation across North Northamptonshire, so that's where possible local provision meets local needs. We need to make sure that the workforce have the skills to deliver our aspirations, and we need to make sure that there is accountability across the system with clear and transparent performance measures to support this. This piece of work has had huge amounts of consultation, including real-life experiences, and I'd like to thank everybody that has played their part in creating this. Once the strategy is approved, implementation plans, some of which are already underway, can be progressed and to start to make a positive impact to the lives of children and young people with SEND, including their families. A final reminder that SEND is everybody's business and all should have a full understanding of all aspects.
Very good, Councillor Edwards. Thank you very much. Any members wish to comment on the paper before you? Okay, so the recommendations for the paper are sitting on page 74 of the agenda pack. And if you would like to show your hands in favour. Yep, okay, thank you very much. Okay. So we now move on to item 10, section 106 funding uplift to the schools. Sorry. skipping ahead of myself. It was all the excitement of the blinds going down behind me. So, agenda item 9, the Youth Justice Plan 2023-24. I'd like to invite Councillor Maxwell to address the meeting for no more than 3 minutes, please. Oh, okay, Councillor Maxwell, no problem. So, Councillor Liam Buckingham.
I know that this is an annual report that comes through and we have to look at, of course, support the recommendation to approve it. I don't know if it goes far enough looking into the holistic approach, because this isn't just a criminal, this isn't just an education, this isn't just a family. As I've said earlier with other places, we need to be looking for positive activities for young people with the removal of most youth action. Definitely when I've done consultation with young people in this town, although there are lots of clubs of many different varieties, people don't know how to access them, and there are a lot of young people that A, wouldn't see the benefit, therefore wouldn't take themselves, and B, might not have the access to resources to be able to do it. We find with most young people who are finding themselves in a tricky position, they're travelling down a road. We know that being a teenager means looking to risk for fun, because it's that experiential period where they're trying to learn how to conquer the world in their adult life. So they're probably looking for risking big for fun, and we need to see if there's a way we can navigate them away. Definitely when we're looking at those in education who are pulling in a pupil premium potentially for their education setting, making sure that it's being utilised. And I think that's one way in which we can make sure there's a holistic view around the child. Of course, they're being picked up by the criminal justice system. Of course, they're coming into the youth offending system. But making sure every part, every facet of that young person's life is targeted towards positive, and it's individualised. It might be sport, it might be activity, it might be experiencing nature. I think there needs to be a broader picture here when we're looking at youth offending, because that's only one facet of the person's life. Of course, this report focuses on the numbers, but I just hope as a council we're looking for those options.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Buckingham. Councillor Edward, would you like to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. And Councillor Buckingham, again, absolutely right. The YOS board that actually Anne-Marie chairs and that I sit on, we are looking at the early intervention measures to take that into place. And you're right, every child should be treated differently, because every child is different, and every child has different needs and different wants and different ambitions, and absolutely different goals. And the last thing we want to see is for them to be on that wrong track. And so the early intervention will go some way into supporting that. But pupil premium, you mentioned pupil premium, and again, absolutely right. Is it being spent in the right way? So we're looking at pupil premium as we speak in individual schools, and I urge anybody that's actually a school governor to actually look actually where that pupil premium is being spent within that school, and is it being targeted in the right way? I'm not saying it's not, but it's always good to just have that knowledge. And I know many of us are school governors, so we can act on that on our governing body. I certainly do within my school governing role. So this report is well, I'll start again. This report is a statutory report that is required to be published. Youth offending teams are statutory partnerships established under the Crime and Disorder Act of 1998 with the aim of preventing offending by children and young people. This plan provides performance from 22 to 23 and includes service budgets, operational and strategic developments, and the improvement plan for 23-24. The following areas are priorities that have been identified: early help and prevention, recognising and responding to child exploitation and serious youth crime, and tackling disproportion in the criminal justice system. The budget structure of the Youth Offending Service is complex in nature, as there are a number of funding streams. The 23-24 Indicative Grant Award for Northamptonshire's Youth Offending Service is £737,177, which is based on the 22-23 allocation and a 4.5% uplift. The uplift of 4.5% is still subject to confirmation by the Youth Justice Board via the Ministry of Justice. The report consists of performance statistics, key performance indicators and case studies. It separates those with special educational needs and those with mental health care and emotional well-being. Sadly, it does show an increase in drugs-related offences and serious drug offences, robberies and violent crimes, and an increase in 10 to 14-year-olds. Also, there has been an increase of knife crime. It does show a consistent reduction in first-time entrants and the number of custodial sentences and those held on remand. Multi-agency working is helping to tackle these issues, and some of the feedback has been positive, but clearly there is more to be done. The Service Development Plan will look at targeted approach to various groups to assist in getting numbers down. Also, early help is important and will be used. The recommendations are set out.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. Members, have you got any comments to make in relation to this paper before you? Okay, so the report has been moved by Councillor Edwards. Can I look for someone to second that, please? Councillor Harrison, thank you very much. So the recommendations are set out at page 74 of the physical agenda pack and 94 of the electronic agenda pack. They've been moved and seconded. Could I have a show of hands in favour, please?
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we now do move on to item 10, section 106, funding uplift to the school's minor work budget. Councillor Maxwell, you have 3 minutes to address the meeting.
Good morning. With Section 106 funds, is this funding directly at the school, or does the council choose which school has the funding? On EN/08/02281/FUL, the Sunseeker site in Findon Road, Earthlingborough, where did £554,380 come from, and which year? Which school has this funding been awarded to? It does not say. I feel this report could point out where the awards are from and how they came to be presented to each of these sites. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell. Councillor Edwards, if you'd like to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Maxwell, I honestly don't have that data with me at the moment. We can try and find out which section 106 each one of those come from. There must be some information around where it has come from, and then I'll get back to you on that. Without passing the buck, section 106s really aren't in my area, but they are allocated to the educational part of it. So this is why this report is coming today. So this report is to consider and approve the uplift of the school's minor work budget by £807,999, and this money has come from Section 106 development funding. It is recommended that it is utilised in the following areas. Just under £80,000 for Weldon Football Club, land at Weldon Football Club for the village school there. Just over £90,000 again for Weldon Football Club for the Corby Business Academy. Just over £41,000 for Corby Old Village Primary School. Just under £23,000 for All Saints Church of England Primary School in Wellingborough. £554,000 in Earthlingborough. Now, that's not allocated to a specific school, but it is for improvement for all educational facilities within the Earthlingborough area. And Addington Way for the primary and the secondary school there for £20,000. It is an additional amount of money that will be given to those schools for works that is needed and desired within those areas. So I move this recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. I just wanted to sort of chip in on the question that Councillor Maxwell just asked you. The detail is in the actual report, Councillor Maxwell, for the question that you asked. If you go to 4.2, you will see in the report it details the development and the funds of what it's meant to be used for. And the one that you're talking about was from the Farnham Road Sunseeker site. The Lantins is where the Section 106 came from, and all the detail of the Section 106 agreements would be online for you to view. Any other comments from members at all? Councillor Pentland.
Thank you, Chair. Another one that I'm pleased to support here. There's quite a focus on education across the board today, and this sort of investment is really important for our schools, particularly where they're seeing development in their local area, to ensure that they can keep providing for students. So it's pleasing to see that there is such a spread coming forward for those schools across the area.
Absolutely, and I completely wholeheartedly support the report. And then, as you can say, you know, we've got various reports coming before us with considerable sums of money that are going to be invested in Northamptonshire's school provision. So let's crack on with it. Any other comments from members? No. Okay, so the recommendations are on page 80 of your agenda pack. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Pentland, thank you very much. So it's been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favours, please? Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 11, the Avenue Infant School Extension. I'd like to invite Councillor Edwards to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is to invest £859,800 to the Avenue Infant School in Wellingborough. We talked earlier on about the SEND strategy and the SEND provision, and I think, Councillor Maxwell, you asked about places. So this is for purely that purpose. So it's to create additional SEND teaching and ancillary space to meet increasing demand for the SEND provision, including physical requirements. You'll see in options 3.3 the options that are available to them, including extending the playground, extending the loft space, purchasing additional land to provide these facilities and much needed facilities for children with SEND. The Avenue Infant School is a two-form entry school, reception year 1 and 2 classes and 6 in total. The growing school needs additional learning environments which are not only appropriate for their use, but are also inspiring and inclusive. Currently, the school has a dedicated room for one-to-one and sensory use. However, its location within the school feels detached and away from the main body of the school. Expanding on these facilities and placing them at the heart of the school will not only provide a practical solution, but help to reduce the stigma surrounding SEND. The Avenue is also lacking ancillary accommodation, primary storage and staff facilities. And finally, the school is desperately need reorganising to provide better storage solutions. This is a great opportunity for the Avenue Infant School in Wellingborough, and I fully welcome this report.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any comments from members? Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to the comment from Councillor Pentland in response to the previous paper, I'd just like to welcome the increase in funding and investment into our special educational needs provision. We've had several papers recently that do that, and it shows that we're, really moving forward at pace in developing that provision, which is so vital to some of our children across Northamptonshire. So I really welcome this. It shows a real sort of direction of travel for our educational provision.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harrison. No other comments? So that report has been moved by Councillor Edwards. Would someone like to second that report? Councillor Howes, thank you very much. So the recommendations are on page 86 of the physical agenda pack, 174 of the electronic one. Can I have a show of hands in favour?
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we move on to item 12, Great Doddington Primary School Mobile Replacement. Councillor Edwards, I would like to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this is another investment within the schools. You will know that from previous executives where we have replaced mobile classrooms to main buildings. So this is now going to happen in Great Doddington Primary School, where the mobile will be replaced. The cost is £996,300, and which will be funded by the Basic Needs Grant funding. It's a great news again for Great Doddington, who will have a purpose-built building for them to do their educational purposes within, and it is anticipated that this will open in September 2024.
Thank you very much. Councillor Edwards, any comments from Executive? Again, just future, more investment into our schools. It's fantastic news, and wholly welcome this report myself. The report has been proposed by Councillor Edwards. Can I look for someone to second the report, please? Councillor Pentland, thank you very much. So that has been moved and seconded. The recommendations are on page 92 of the physical agenda pack and 180 of the electronic pack. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 13, which is a framework agreement for assistive technology equipment. I'd like to invite Councillor Maxwell to address the meeting for no more than 3 minutes. Okie dokie. So I'd like to invite Councillor Lynn Buckingham to address the meeting.
Good afternoon again, and thank you. As you've said yourself, Leader, some of the reports coming to the Executive are very welcomed, and we acknowledge that. And this is another of those reports where it brings out that investment, and we welcome the disaggregation from West Northants and the investment in more equipment. And obviously, as technology grows, so does the cost. So understanding that. We also have a consultation at the moment on sensory impairment, and just wonder how that will inform the framework agreement going forward. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buckingham. I'd now like to invite Councillor Harrison to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Buckingham, for, again, your support and your questions. I think you talked about the breadth of what assistive technology can now be, and that can increase, obviously, increase the costs of providing that. I think what's really important to take into account there is that keeping people safe and well at home actually reduce costs in social care and the care that's that's required. So a really good assistive technology package will actually be an invest to save scenario. So I think that's really important to note when you're noticing the increased costs of it. With regards to sensory impairment, everything that can be taken into account is being taken into account. And we've got some, again, you mentioned technology, we've got some really great things coming forward. That will be able to help people with all the different disabilities and issues that they may have. So the purpose of the report is to seek approval to procure a new framework agreement for the supply of assistive technology, which I'll refer to as AT from now on to shorten things up, to commence on the 1st of April 2024. When the current AT service will have been disaggregated from West Northamptonshire. So West Northamptonshire Council currently run that service and provide it for us. So from the 1st of April 2024, we will have our own framework. Assistive technology, as we've just been talking about, is any product or service designed to enable independence for disabled and older people. This broad definition means that a wide range of products and services are eligible and considered as AT. So it could be anything from a very simple mobility aid all the way up to some, a digital remote monitoring system like Canary or Akobo, and there's various, really sophisticated and smart technologies that we're now testing, trialling and using. And if we find that they are cost effective, I'm sure we're going to be rolling those out more and more. The overall outcome of the service is to enable vulnerable people to maintain their independence, health and well-being in their own home for as long as possible. So it's very much a prevention service. The specific outcomes are to prevent admissions to hospital and residential care, create efficiencies within the delivery of social care services, prevent people dying prematurely, help people to recover from ill health and injury, help keep people safe and protect them from harm, and to support informal carers to improve family life and to reduce carer strain. If an agreement is not in place for 80, it will mean that the service being delivered to support the delivery of the Care Act 2014 will no longer be able to operate. This will mean that NNC will be unable to meet all the prevention requirements under that Act, and this may result in NNC having to provide higher cost care packages as a replacement. Framework agreements allow for the procurement of goods and services from a list of pre-approved suppliers with agreed terms and conditions and legal protections. In most cases, a framework agreement will not itself commit either party to purchase or supply. An invitation to tender with a specification setting out a general statement of needs or requirement is our favoured approach. This model allows a variety of suppliers of AT equipment to apply to be appointed to the framework, encouraging innovation and competition. The framework would be established with quality in mind. It's expected that the agreed price for individual items of equipment will be defined at the beginning of the framework agreement. It's expected this agreed price for the equipment will apply as and when specific purchases are being made during the framework agreement. It is expected that purchases of products of a similar nature will be subject to mini-competition, and price may become a determining factor between suppliers appointed to the framework. It is also common for equipment providers to focus on only one or two devices instead of offering a range of equipment, and therefore a pricing comparison exercise may not always be possible, as in some cases there just are no alternatives. It's proposed that we increase the value limit of the proposed framework to £3 million over 4 years. So that's a limit, doesn't mean we will spend that full £3 million, to allow us to continue to develop our existing projects and expand our offer and partnerships. If approval is given by executive, then the next steps are to prepare the specification and issue an invitation to tender to potential suppliers, and to follow through with an evaluation of tender responses to then set up suppliers on the new framework agreement. And with that, I'm happy to propose the recommendations at 3.1. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harrison. I mean, clearly this is an excellent paper. It's a very challenging time for any members of families or for loved ones that have to start to consider that, putting a relative into sort of home care and that type of thing. So, anything that we can do as an authority to embrace technology, to keep people at home for as long as possible, is an advantageous thing for everybody involved. And I'm convinced that people flourish better whilst at home than in a residential care type scenario. But yes. Any other comments from members? Councillor Pentland.
Thank you, Chair. And like you, welcome this. It can be really simple things, as you set out, Councillor Harrison, to assist people in recovery or illness. But then the opportunities with this as well, with the more complex and technological side of it, there's lots of opportunities there. So it is really welcome to see this coming forward, and certainly supportive of it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pentland. Any other comments from members? Okay, so Councillor Harrison has recommended the report. Could I look for someone to second that report, please? Councillor Edwards, thank you very much. So the recommendations are on the report at page 98 of the agenda pack and 186 of the electronic pack. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 14, the Local Authority Housing Fund Round 2, Funding, Resettlement and Temporary Accommodation. I'd like to invite Councillor Maxwell to come to the microphone. You have a maximum of 3 minutes, Councillor Maxwell.
Good morning. As we, as a council, have always helped refugees from Afghanistan, and they have lived in hotels for the past 2 years, we know that they need to move on. My concern as a councillor is that we've not had 4-bedroom homes to let out for over 4 years for local residents. There are over 5,000 people looking for accommodation and 250 in urgent need in NNC. In 4.9, we aim to purchase 4-bedroom homes for refugees and to refurbish them. How do you think our own residents who've been waiting feel? The question is, we need to invest more in larger homes, larger council homes for our residents. Are we going to match fund the 6.765 million at a cost of 3.711 million from NNC? Therefore, how can we actually justify this funding if it's not going to help local residents? This is a difficult decision to decide to make, but whatever you consider as a council, you have to bear in mind that residents in NNC are also desperate for housing. You make the decisions, we have to sit back and listen for whatever you decide as the best benefit for everyone, not just a certain few. I realise that this is a difficult decision, but refugees are important. However, so are residents on NNC. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell. Councillor Lynn Buckingham.
Thank you very much. And I welcome this paper and the Department of Levelling Up Housing and Communities for making this fund available. But I do note that to match fund, you're going to have to borrow against capital spend for the next 3 to 4 years to fund that. And I wondered if there's any other way of doing that rather than putting that or grabbing that money, which may have an impact. And I know that we still need to formulate our own housing strategy and how we are going to develop as a council and bring forward. And I know that that's not part of this fund that you can tap into. So I realise that that funding has only come through for this specific purpose. But again, it's like I said last time, what impact is having, taking that money now have on our future? And is there any other way of funding that? So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Buckingham. If we now go to Councillor Rowley to introduce the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Right, to answer Councillor Maxwell's question, first of all, I think you've quoted the figures from round one. So that's already money that's been spent out. And just to clarify, refugees, the Afghan people coming forward are from the resettlement scheme. So they're a specific group of residents coming into the system. And in terms of the capital, where the funding's coming from, if that's okay, I'll leave that for Yvonne to answer that one before I do the report proper.
Hi there. So just to assist you, the LAF funding, as you're aware, is government funding. We have to use that funding for the specific clientele of refugees. However, what the plan would be was that we would place those refugees on a licence agreement for up to a maximum of 3 years. And then we would look to see whether we could purchase those properties into the HRA so that those properties would come into properties for a wider community. So we do understand the optics that, we're giving brand new properties to refugees, and we have struggled providing that demand for residents on a waiting list. So that's the halfway house, to provide a temporary licence for 3 years and then look to purchase into the general fund. In terms of the pressure, Purchasing into the general fund at the moment and using this LAF funding and placing refugees in this accommodation, in our own accommodation, brings down the financial pressure that we are paying at considerable amounts on our temporary accommodation. And that spend has a wider impact into all of the other housing services that we can deliver. So we are looking at balancing that out, and you're quite correct, we are now looking at our development programme, which is part of my housing strategy, about how we develop properties for our residents in the future, whether that's a mix of new build or buying within current stock or right to buy stock, and importantly using the receipts that we have from the right to buy receipts and making sure we are maximising that spend. So it's always a balancing act. But I think with this approach, it's the right one. We're also not borrowing additional funding for this, so we've brought forward spending from 24-25, so we're not actually borrowing any further money in this year to be able to match fund across that, so that also reduces the financial risk for us. So I hope that provides some reassurance for you.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. That's most useful. Councillor Rowley, if you want to introduce the report.
Yeah. So this report is to look to seek approval for local authority housing fund for round 2, which will be a grant of 1.298 million from government with a 60% capital match funding. So our requirement would be 1.947 million for at least 11 homes for to be purchased, 9 of which will be for Afghan resettlement scheme and 2 for a temporary accommodation for use within the council, and a number of those will be 4+ bed houses to accommodate the Afghan families that historically have a larger family unit. It's worth quickly going over round 1 as in the report. That was for a minimum of 26 houses for Afghan resettlement scheme and Ukrainian refugees that we've got. That was a 3.2 million grant allocation with 3.7 million spend allocation from council. Delighted to say that we've actually purchased 30 homes from that scheme, all of which will be over the line for purchase on time and to budget. So I've got no qualms whatsoever that round 2 won't deliver even better, Yvonne. So that's it, Chairman. The report. Put the recommendations as per the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rowley. So we've seen the report and we've had a good read of that. Is there any questions from members that would like to? Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Rowley, for going through the paper. I full-heartedly support the purchasing of these properties. I think there's, as somebody who's also involved in the resettlement scheme for both Afghan refugees and Ukrainian refugees, we've seen the pressure that's been building on homelessness, using temporary accommodation, and the knock-on effect that has on our residents who are in need of housing. So I think it's really important that we, if we offer sanctuary to people, we don't leave them in hotels, which is completely inadequate and inappropriate, particularly for people with young children. Growing up in a hotel is really no place for a family to be. So I support this, and I understand absolutely the comments that Councillor Maxwell has raised. And I think one thing I'd like to accentuate, and it has been already mentioned, but I'd really like to accentuate it, is that this is a real opportunity for us to purchase housing that will ultimately become part of our council housing stock and will ultimately benefit residents of North Northamptonshire. And I think it's probably important to see our Afghan refugees and our Ukrainian refugees as North Northamptonshire residents, because that's who they are. So I'd really like to support that and hope that helps to assuage some of your concerns, Councillor Maxwell, and answer some of those questions. Thank you, Councillor Rowley.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harrison. Any other comments from members? No, so that's good. So we have the recommendations that have been put before you. So Councillor Rowley has moved the report. I'm assuming you're going to second that report, Councillor Harrison. Thank you very much. Recommendations are on page 106 of your agenda packs and 194 of the electronic pack. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Fantastic, thank you. So we now move on to item 15, designating care experience as a protective characteristic. I would like to invite Councillor Maxwell to address the meeting. Councillor Maxwell, you have a maximum of 3 minutes.
This report sets out how NNC should support young people who commit crime and end up in prison. There is an increase in young people ending up in prison. And
Councillor Maxwell,
sorry,
I'm not sure that's what this report's about.
I think it is actually.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Carry on then.
Well, I could be wrong.
Okay.
Chair, I would agree with you. I think, Councillor Maxwell, you're talking on the previous report.
Well, it's agenda item 15 that I'm reporting on. Is that correct?
Okay.
Have I got it wrong?
This is talking about designating someone who's been in care as a protective
right.
characteristic.
I'm going on to that.
Not necessarily been in prison, Councillor Maxwell, if they've been in care.
They've been in care, sorry.
Yeah, in care, yes.
Right. So what I would like to know is, what involvement does the probation service help to prevent this?
Well, okay. Any other questions? Councillor Edwards, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, let's go to Councillor Leanne Buckingham. Yeah, Councillor Buckingham, you have 3 minutes.
I really support this pivotal move. We need to acknowledge the unique challenges care experience young people face and ensure legal protection against discrimination. I think this is reflective of our community wanting to create an equitable society where everyone, regardless of their background, can thrive. This change does herald a fairer society, one where care experienced individuals are empowered and their potential valued. I hope the executive will lobby government to make sure that this change is one that's reflected across the county. This issue cannot be resolved by well-meaning individuals in pockets across the country. As this council looks to improve ways in which we can deliver services as a whole, I hope that we consider opportunities to bring more in-house services in, and I say that for the reason of recruitment. When I was a youngster, and some of you in this room, actually coming into a council and learning a skilled service was a very valuable access into a workplace, something that isn't as prevalent now. And when we're looking at that, I hope when we come to recruitment, we're putting those protective characteristics at the front of the queue to ensure that they have some place of belonging. As most of us would as normal parents and grandparents, we should do the same as corporate grandparents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Buckingham. Okay, Councillor Edwards, would you like to introduce the report and answer some of those questions?
Yeah, Councillor Maxwell, I mean, to be fair, the probation service, I really do think you were talking on a previous report, the Justice Bill, Youth Justice Bill, on which the probation service do have a lot of work involved within that. They don't necessarily have work to do with the care experiencing characteristic. But happy to discuss with you offline about the Youth Justice Bill within that. And Councillor Buckingham, a third time today, thank you very much that I find myself, you find yourself supporting me, and that's great, and that's really positive. And absolutely agree with you that anything we can do to protect children that have been in care or are currently in care, then we should be able to recognise that as corporate parents. Again, that's everybody's job, and we should be doing that. And the apprenticeships, again, absolutely, and I think this will form part of our recruitment, is that we will give everybody a fair chance of applying for a job, and this will not go against anybody in the future. Not that it does now, but you know, it won't be discriminated against, as is with some of the other characteristics. So this report is to put care experience as a protected characteristic. You will know that the equality duty covers the other protected characteristics, which are age, disability, gender reassignment, pregnancy and maternity, race, religion or belief, sex and sexual orientation, marriage and civil partnerships. And it will put people with care experience on that same level. We will absolutely lobby government to provide this as a legal source of it, as the others are, but we will use this in everything that Northants does and take that on board within that. Sadly, to quote some statistic, that 41% of care experienced young people aged 19 to 21 are not in education, employment or training, and that's compared to a 12% national average. So that's a huge disadvantage that we can see, and that's why we're looking at doing this and putting this forward. So I do hope that you will support this paper today.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards, and I wholeheartedly support this paper, and would like to thank Anne-Marie Dodds and her team for bringing this forward as well, because it's a fantastic paper. And what better way of acknowledging someone who's been through the care system to actually have them working in a local authority who actually understand what it feels like to be that individual in that care system at a very young age. And I wholeheartedly support this paper. Members, do we have any other comments? Councillor Pentland.
Thank you, Chair. Like you, very supportive of this and pleased to see such a proactive policy approach coming forward on this. Saw a documentary recently which looked at the experience of young people in care or just leaving, and it was really thought-provoking in highlighting that some of the difficulties they may experience or have experienced. So it's really important that we support them in the ways that we can. Thank you, Councillor Pentland. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Edwards and Anne-Marie for bringing this paper forward. I think it's really important. I think it shows what kind of a council we are. I think it shows that we're a caring council. You know, so clearly I wholeheartedly support this. And I just wanted to add just one thought into the process, and that is that somebody who has experienced care can be affected by that for the whole of their life. So we're not only talking about children, we're talking about people through all of their life course. Now, not everybody's going to want to tell you that they've been in care, but the ability for them to do so and to know that they will be treated accordingly, I think is really important. If anything we can do to, you know, help to make up for some of the issues and problems that people have had that we haven't, is really great. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you very much, Councillor Harrison. Any other members' comments? No. Okay, so the recommendations have been proposed by Councillor Edwards. Would someone like to second the report? Councillor Howes, thank you very much. So the recommendations are set out on page 118 of the physical agenda pack and 206 of the electronic pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So we now move on to item 16, the capital outrun 23 to 24 draft outline as of period 3. Councillor Lee, would you like to come and address the meeting? You have a maximum of 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Well, really, I'm asking for information on the capital programme schemes that have been approved by Council, approved by you councillors, that are not being delivered. You see, in 4.5, we can read that the majority of these schemes, capital programme schemes, have been delivered. Now, I'm aware of 2 schemes that have not been delivered. The one in Cannock Road in Corby and the one on the Grange Estate in Windmill Ward in Kettering. Now, Councillor Rowley very kindly replied to my email to inform me that the house building scheme by this council in Cannock Road, Corby, will go ahead, which is great news. But I think there's still uncertainty about the scheme in the Grange. The planning application dates back to 2020. Kettering Borough Council have approved it. This council has approved it. The planning application, revised application, was approved in March this year. And I'm talking about the demolition of a derelict Methodist church there and an erection of 8 new dwellings. I just don't know. There's just no explanation here as to why that building work is not happening. And it seems that you as councillors are not, as portfolio holders, are not being informed about that either. I'm trying to understand what's written here. Is it somewhere it says that there will need to be changes to the scope? Where is it? Oh yes, 5.4. There's some reference to scoping changes or other mitigation if schemes are to remain within the original budget envelopes. Does that refer to my building scheme in, I say mine, I'm sorry. my community in the Grange has been really waiting for these homes, and we're in desperate need of homes. And yes, we are in desperate need of larger homes. I agree. I've got a family with children waiting, a disabled mother waiting, and the housing department can only tell me, yes, it's being discussed month after month at the team meetings, but there are just not enough homes. So why? Also, why do we have, as the last point, Chair, why do we have this underspend of £16 million on the HRA capital programme and underspend 11.5 million in Corby and 4.7 million in Kettering? Why? The explanation is something about delays in finalising new contractual arrangements. I mean, please try
Councillor
and
Lee,
make me and my residents
that's your time,
understand.
I'm afraid, now. Your 3 minutes. Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Lynn Buckingham, you have a maximum of 3 minutes.
Thank you again. And mine is on almost the same vein as my colleague. It's the amount of slippages and, you know, the underspends that go on. And I know that, you know, it could be that prices are rising and things like that, but we are getting to a stage where, you know, slippages are happening all the time, and if slippages are happening, that means the services aren't being delivered. So how can we make more efficient, and I know it's a lot of forward planning doesn't always go to plan, but when you're talking of between sort of 20 and 40 million slippages in a year, you just wonder how we can make it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckingham. Councillor Bunday, would you like to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. I was going to refer to the significant slippages of developments, and a lot of it is due to needing to review the terms of suitability and affordability of the sites, and also to bring everything into line with the one-for-one capital receipts restrictions that we have. But I'm sure that Councillor Rowley can discuss that with you offline after this meeting. This quarterly report sets out the provisional capital outturn position for 23-24 for North Northamptonshire Council as at the end of period 3. The outturn for the 2023-24 General Fund Capital Programme reflected in paragraph 5.1 shows a revised capital budget position of £78 million, including slippage and in-year approved programmes. The spend is £61.2 million, which represents an underspend of £16.8 million against the revised budget. Paragraph 5.2 lists a number of projects that are delivered or in progress. The underspend in relation to this is the Corby Towns Fund, Sixth Form College and the train station to town centre route, street lighting upgrades, and a number of school-related improvements such as completion of work at Stanton Cross Primary School and Prince William Academy. Detailed analysis by directorate is shown in Appendix A, and it should be noted that these details projects over a £500,000 budget. As part of pardon me, as part of completing the period 3 monitoring and finalising the draft position for 22-23, the carry forwards from 22-23 will need to be amended as highlighted in paragraph 5.5. This is mainly to accommodate the Refugee Phase 2 resettlement programme into the capital programme for 23-24 and reverse the reprofiling of the budgets for future years. This was reported in the item at item 14 of the agenda, and will put part of the resolution of the item following this one, namely the capital programme update. HRA capital outturn 23-24 has been updated as shown in paragraph 5.8. The outturn for the HRA capital programme shows a revised budget for 23-24 of some £23.4 million, including slippage from 22-23. The outturn is showing a spend of £6.9 million, which represents an underspend of £16.3 million compared to budget, which is what I alluded to earlier. Detailed analysis by project is shown in Appendix B, and I'm happy to propose the recommendations of paragraph 3, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bunday. Just looking to members, do you have any comments in relation to this report? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify what I've actually said to Councillor Lee is that the Corby development we signed off last week, and that is going through the procurement stages now and the lock steps to make sure it's all done properly, which we can't rush that any further. The Stamford Road, I haven't told you what's going on because I don't know exactly what's going on. I know roughly what's going on, but I don't want to give out what I think is happening until I know definitely. The reason you didn't get it last week was because Yvonne was on holiday. So we're having a chat afterwards and I'll forward the information on to you. But it has started, groundwork has started on that development. So I just wanted to clarify, it's not that I don't know, I don't want to give the wrong information out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Rowley. Any other comments from members? Okay, so Councillor Bunday has recommended the report. Can I have someone to second that report, please? Councillor Rowley, thank you very much. The recommendations are on page 126 of the physical agenda pack and 214 of the electronic one. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Very good, thank you. So we now move on to item 17, which is the capital programme update for 23-24. I'd like to invite Councillor Lynn Buckingham to address the meeting.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to withdraw my opportunity to speak on this occasion, but thank you.
Okay, Councillor Buckingham, thank you very much for saving some time there. Councillor Councillor Bunday, would you like to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, there's a number of capital items in the report this month, and they are all good news stories. Starting with the Avenue Infants School SEND provision, Section 106 contributions, we'll be funding that. Great Doddington Primary School mobile replacement, that will be coming from the Basic Needs Capital Grant. Weavers Academy bulge places, which will again be coming from the Basic Needs Capital Grant. School minor works, budget uplift, Section 106 contributions. Developed formula capital DFC grants passported to maintain schools. Again, this is a DFC grant. Spinney Road Weldon Play Area, budget approved of £35,000, is a Section 106 contribution. Desborough Green Space, again, is a Section 106 agreement. Well Lane Recreation Ground Rothwell, a Section 106 agreement. Higham Ferrers Library Provision, another Section 106. And finally, the item that I alluded to earlier, which was also in item 14, which is the Phase 2 Refuge Resettlement Scheme. And this will have to be a recommendation to full council, since it will be from the capital programme to match funding requirements for the grant. And with that, Chair, I'm happy to propose the recommendations of paragraph 3.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Bunday. So you can see there's a lot of investment within our local communities, and this is all cashes into the work that's been done by this authority over the last 2 and a bit years. So it's great news that we're seeing this, and we see regularly capital injections into various projects across our communities, and I'm pleased to see this rough of them coming through today for approval. Any other comments from members? Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair, and I too welcome this report, and some of the things we have mentioned earlier on, and particularly with the educational parts of it, and it's a real positive that we are moving forward, not just temporary measures, these are permanent measures that are happening within our schools and our facilities. Just to capture the Weavers Academy one, that wasn't previously mentioned because of the amounts, but that's to accommodate the issue we have with secondary school places at the moment, and that in some areas we don't have enough. So that's what we're doing to alleviate some of the issues surrounding that. But it really is all positive, and it's great news for these schools.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Pentland.
Thank you, Chair. There's a lot of really positive investment here. Just wanted to draw attention to the investment in a number of the green spaces that residents have access to, such as Desborough Green Space and Well Lane Recreation Ground. That's really good news. But also, as a Higham Ferrers Ward Councillor, to draw attention to the investment in the library provision locally, which I know will be really welcomed by local residents, and the Town Council have been working hard to secure that, so that's really good to see.
Totally good. Thank you very much, Councillor Pentland. Any other comments from members? No? Okay, so Councillor Bunday has moved that report. Can we look for someone to second? Councillor Edwards, thank you, will second that report for us. And the recommendations are on page 146 of the physical agenda pack and 234 of the electronic pack. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much, David. So we now move on to item 18, budget forecast of 2023-24 as of P3. I'd like to invite Councillor Dorothy Maxwell to address the meeting. No, okay, Councillor Maxwell, thank you very much. So, Councillor Bunday, would you like to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This report provides commentary on the Council's forecast for the revenue outturn position 23-24 based on the information available as at period 3, June 2023, and the forecast position for each of the funds is as follows. The General Fund, an overspend of £7.847 million. Housing Revenue Account, an overspend of £24,000. Dedicated Schools Grant is forecast to be delivered on budget. The monitoring report sets out the material financial issues identified since 2023-24 budget was set in February, and is based on early emerging data and represents the views of budget holders and assistant directors. We will continue to assess and refine the forecasts on a regular basis using the latest intelligence available. The forecast overspend of £7.847 million of the General Fund is against a net budget of £337.027 million, which is a movement of £727,000 from period 2, where a pressure of £7,120,000 was reported. It should also be noted that the net budget increased by £482,000, which reflects the use of the Climate Change Reserve to support the development and operation of climate change projects and initiatives, and this was approved by the Executive at the meeting on the 12th of July this year. At this point, Chair, can I point out that there is an error on table 4.1, and the Children's Education forecast position is incorrect. It should be 79,909. So the total directorate budget should be 318,422, and the total at the bottom should report 344,919. The main movements between period 2 and 3 are Children's Trust, £721,000 adverse movement. Children's. The main movement within that is the Children's Trust, and the forecast of the Children's Trust has increased from an overspend of £20.578 million to £22.186 million. an increase of £1.608 million, and that shared between the two councils and results in a pressure of £710,000 to this council. There are minor other pressures amounting to £11,000. Place has an £18,000 favourable movement, and enabling has an adverse movement of £24,000. The details of the movements against the budget is set out in the report and summarised in the table of 4.2. The Council's corporate contingency budget for 23-24 is £3.746 million, which represents around 1% of the net budget. The contingency budget is held to meet unknown, unplanned, unbudgeted costs. At this stage, the contingency budget is currently assumed to be used in full during the year. This will include inflationary and demand pressures, as well as helping to offset the potential additional cost of the pay award, as the offer by the employers already exceeds the pay inflation that was budgeted. The Council's overall outturn forecast for the housing revenue account as at period 3 is a forecast overspend of £24,000 against an approved budget of £38.752 million. The details of the movement against budget are set out in the report in section 6. The Council's overall outturn forecast for the DSG as at period 3 is a forecast net spend of £121.2 million, which is in line with the approved budget and is unchanged from period 2. Details of the DSG are set out in section 7 of the report. Like many councils, the main issues, risks and unknowns that we continue to face are around the inflationary impact and the changes within demand-led services. As councillors will be aware, the Bank of England increased the base rate by 0.25% to 5.25% earlier this month. This was the 14th consecutive increase since December 2021, and the rate is at the highest level for 15 years. The inflation figures for June were slightly lower than in May, but just being published, Chair, have been the July figures, so I will share those. And June's figures for the CPI was 7.9, July's figures, which have just been published, are 6.8, and the RPI figures for June was 10.7, and the RPI figure for July is 9%. We recognise that it is and will continue to be a challenging time, but we'll be working hard to balance our finances whilst protecting vital services, particularly those to our most vulnerable residents. In order to help safeguard the financial position of the Council, officers will continue to seek efficiencies in year and to offset the forecast overspend. The Council has a contingency budget and reserves available to call on to help fund in-year pressures. However, it will look to achieve alternative mitigations in the first instance. And with that, Chair, I'm happy to propose the recommendations of paragraph 3.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bunday, any comments from members in relation to this report? Okay, so the report has been moved by Councillor Bunday. Can I look to a member to second that report, please? Councillor Harrison, thank you very much. The recommendations are on page 154 of the Physical Agenda Pack, 242 of the electronic pack. They've been moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands in favour, please? Thank you very much. So I can confirm that I've received no other urgent items of business. So that concludes the business of this agenda, and I'd like to thank everyone who has come today and contributed, and those members that